Hi everybody. I've had a few requests of people wondering how I go about photographing flowers at home. I have a little mini studio in our dining room, which I took over about 8 years ago, and it's never been a dining room since. So I'll take you through my process. And what we're going to use today is some gorgeous blossoms. I'm not even sure whether they're plum or cherry tree blossoms because they look quite similar. But these are the ones I'm going to use today. So this is the main photo, the outcome. So I'll take you through from start to finish exactly what I do. So this is a behind the scenes photo in my dining room, and please excuse my scruffy table. It is also used as an arts and crafts table, and that's the way it is, like this. Um, So my first photo of the day is going to be done with natural light, and I've got a window on the right hand side there, so all of the light is going to be coming from there. However, using a light tent like this means that that light is going to get bounced around and it's going to help it be a lot more even. So this is why I use a light tent a lot of the time. There's a place for them. Sometimes if you want to control lighting, you're better off not using these. But just for a nice even light, this works quite well. Um, a lot of people have also asked about how I use my backgrounds and my textures. And as you can see here, there's one placed at the back there behind the flowers. And I've used just simple double-sided sticky tape to adhere the photograph to a piece of card or hardboard, it was in this case. And it's printed out on matte paper so you don't get any reflections there. And you'll see when I show you the video, I'll place it on top of some non-slip mat. And this matting you can buy from anywhere for about £2 or £3, or a roll for about a fiver. And it's great stuff. I use it for all sorts of things. But basically what it'll stop doing, it'll help things stop sliding, and it'll just help that stay steady on there. And on the left of that, you'll see a vase, which is quite a heavy vase, and that is helping to stop it fall forwards, because occasionally they'll fall forwards and they'll completely ruin your plants. So that's why I always use one of those there. I'll take you through the video now. So here you can see on the back of the camera my settings. I've got quite a slow shutter speed there. It's only 1/30th of a second, and the ISO is fairly high at 500. That's because it's natural light. And you can't see the f-stop here because I'm using a Primoplan lens. It's an old lens that is completely manual. And when you get these manual lens, they often don't show the aperture on the front there. So we'll start this off again. You can see I've got a shutter release cable in the top there because of the low shutter speed. There you can see on the top is my Primoplan lens, and it's you can't see what it's set to here, but it's set to around about f4 for this one. There's an adapter there to help fit it to my lens. And because I'm photographing something fairly close up, I've also had to use an extension tube as well. I think this one was a 16mm extension tube. And then you can see some helping hands holding a little leaf there and holding some more of the little blossoms there to the left. I've got a lot of these helping hands. And this again shows at the bottom, you can see that non-slip mat just helping to secure the back texture overlay there, the background. And the actual cherry tree blossoms that I'm photographing, the main ones, are held by a lab stand. And you can get all different types of lab stands. They're really, really handy. Just have a look on Amazon or eBay. Just type into Google, you'll find them. So this is generally how I set things up. So I get the foreground blur from these plants and leaves that are closer to the lens, and the background blur is from the background there. These helping hands, you can get them in all different types, but I find the soldering iron ones, um, they often have a lot more arms, which can be quite handy. I like to use 2 or 3 arms for different things. And here you can see the outcome of the photograph. We'll just zoom in and check in on how the levels are doing there and make sure it's all looking okay. And they look okay to me. It's always hard to tell with these, isn't it, when they're so light and bright on the blossoms. Now, here I wanted to show you, because I'm using the Primoplan lens, um, I went through a couple of different apertures so you can see the difference. I'll just replay that. So that's an f2.8 aperture, and then the background changes a little bit there, where I've moved it up to about an f8, I think it was I moved it to. So after I'd taken those photographs, I decided to move on to using some flash. And it's a slightly different ball game using the flash. It's going to bounce around and hit a lot more of your subject there, including the leaves in the foreground. So I often use another helping hand, like you can see just to the right here, and a piece of black card or foam board just to block some of the light. Sometimes this can just be a slither of this black card, just an inch wide or so, and it's simply to stop the harsher light from hitting the lighter coloured flowers in the foreground and making them too bright. You want the brightest part of your image to be your main subject. You want the highest contrast to be there as well. So we don't want the eye coming to the front of the image where there's really bright flowers. So this is why I do this. So I've started with a larger piece of that there, and the setup's more or less the same, but I changed the angle of the flowers here and losing focus there. You can see I've also just changed the size of the board to the right there. You call it flagging off the light. It's just blocking out a little bit of light from reaching those foreground flowers there. And whilst the rest of the light will still reach the main blossoms. And just trying to show you closer in where everything's placed there. And then you can see how these ones turn out. My settings have changed for these because I'm using flash. And then I went on to use a completely different background just to give us a different look. I think this is a bit more of a natural look, so you can imagine the foliage around there. And just another quick look around the scene. Just so you can get the idea, really. And there you can see just how gorgeous that foreground blur is. Now here, the light was a little bit dull on the main flowers here. So I brought in a beauty dish to the right-hand side and changed the angle of it. And we'll see in the next image, the light is much, much better. There you go. That's a load better. Um, I did try putting another piece of black card in front of this petal. There's one really bright petal there, but for some reason, every time I try to move it to cover that, to block the light from that really bright petal, um, it was also blocking the light from the other main flowers there. So I had to just give up on that. So there you go, that's the main flowers, and that's one of my approaches to photographing flowers in my dining room. And these required virtually no editing at all. I think there were a couple of little dots on the flowers that I needed to remove, and that was about it. The exposure was pretty much spot on. I think what I would do, the only thing I would change is that one bright petal. I think I would slightly darken that down. Um, so I'll also be following this up with another video of how I photograph some liverworts from my garden as well, but I'm bringing them in onto the dining room to show you my approach yet again. So thank you for watching. Do put some requests in the comments, and if you've got any requests that you'd like to see my approach to. Okay, thank you.